Hey all, welcome back. I'll keep my comments to a minimum unless I think of things to talk about, but it was kind of through the game. It's a little bit longer, so I'll try to kind of run through it a little bit quickly. You know, maybe skip looking for extra rewards and stuff, especially because there's so few. So last time we had the plane crash, and now we're looking for the girl. I think her name was Elena, and we're probably about halfway there. Like you can see, if I look around this corner, you can see there's half the plane here, but we don't see her parachute, so we have a little ways to go.
Okay, steady.
And this part, there's quite a few guys to fight, so I'm gonna take a little time and make sure I strategically plan out some of the stuff.
Shoot to kill.
Oh, that is. And like a little wuss.
Doesn't look good. That'll come in handy.
I feel like his arms are way too skinny to actually do this. See guys coming down already.
Ah, crap. Here we go. Okay.
I hate games where they know exactly where you are, even though there's no way they could have actually seen you go to that spot.
Here we go. Love of God. Nice.
I think I'm doing a lot better the second time around just because I've gotten so much more practice with how the game actually handles. First time around I was struggling so much more. I think most likely just because the aiming on this is very different from a lot of modern games until it's not as refined. But once you kind of learn, where the guns shoot and everything, it's much easier.
Better watch where I'm going.
Oh, it's trippy. A long ways to go to get over there. So while I'm scaling over there, maybe I'll talk about how different games actually set up their graphics. So I've been developing an app. I've done a couple like 2D and 3D apps, helped on different ones. There's different ways that you can do your graphics on a game. So on a 2D game, you can. I think the most common one is just doing sprites. And basically, what a sprite is it's one or more images that are into an image file, and then you just tell it when to render that sprite. So like if you think about, maybe like Mario, they're going to have a lot of sprites that are just repeated over and over. So that's a pretty common way to do 2D games. You just have a lot of repetitive sprites and whatnot. Another common way is textures, where you basically do like a wireframe of what you want and then just overlay textures on top of those wireframes. So that one's not one for 2D games, but it's kind of more of the cross between the 2D and 3D. Kind of like those new Assassin's Creed, I think they're the Chronicles or whatever they were called. So they have a good mixture of where you can work with those sprites and wireframes to do about any effect you want. For 3D games are quite a bit different. So there's a couple different ways that you can handle graphics on 3D games. Probably the very most common is polygons. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but the next way is that wireframe way that I was talking about with the 2D ones. So with that one, they basically make a wrap, like a giant image that you wrap around a model, a 3D model. The advantage to that one is it's relatively easy to, change the skins and whatnot, because you're just wrapping a 3D model. The disadvantage to that is sometimes you can't get the same amount of detail, same amount of colliding or anything. So it really depends on how much quality you want to put into your game. That method is also really good for something like a mobile app platform, because it takes a lot less space. It requires a lot less processing power to do. Obviously, that system's not going to be used for a lot of these type of games, mainly because your consoles have a lot. They're built for graphics and processing, so they don't have to worry about saving space usually. So that's where the polygon method comes in. So polygons are... It's similar to wrapping it with the images, but they basically render things using different shapes, and I don't know how to quite explain it. So you basically... let me kill these guys. I'm not even concentrating on the words I'm saying. Oh my goodness, this guy's giving me trouble. I don't think that's the last of them, so I'll be a little bit careful. It might be. You'll notice there's a lot of these spike traps around here. You gotta be careful of not hitting the tripwires. Okay. So back to talking about polygons. So to render things at different levels based on what your processing power can handle. So, for example, a really simple, probably the most basic polygon that you can think of would be a cube. You know, it's a really basic square. Um, you know, on every side. You don't have to think about any special angles or anything. It's just a really basic shape. So to make complex shapes out of cubes, you can think about Legos. You can stack Legos together and make really complex shapes out of Legos. So the same type of thing applies to polygon. The uh, the more shapes you add into it, the higher quality you can achieve with your graphics. Um, so very commonly, they won't actually use cubes; they'll use triangular shapes. The reason is you can actually render a lot more type of textures with triangles than you can with squares. Um, take this rock right here. You can see every little corner. I can achieve that with a triangle. However, if I were to try to do that with squares, I would have to make my squares, rotated and things. Um, so they basically achieve all these really fine surfaces by using um, bunch of lines on triangles, and they just change the angle of how they're rendered. Um, so the modern consoles, they have a lot more power to do way more of these triangles. So when you're looking at a game like this one, there's not a lot of graphic quality. Um, Especially you can see some of the textures. If I look out on the ocean, you can see they're just repeating textures over and over. That's why you've got those lines out there. Um, and even like the leaves and stuff here, you can tell they didn't put a lot of time into it. Basically, because it takes a lot of effort to put time into little things like that. The ground here, it's a very basic texture. There's not a lot of detail to it. But newer games, especially when they're trying to do like cutscenes, they'll put a lot more details so they can process more, so they can do that. Um, Another interesting thing about how those graphics are rendered, the more processing power you have, the more ability you have to not worry about duplicating textures, um, or without making it noticeable. So when you are wrapping things using that, or using the sprite method even, you can use much more granular detail when you are repeating those, so you don't get the effect that it looks like it's repeating. So that's kind of the major ways to render graphics. Um, a lot of companies build these games on lower level languages like C++, mostly because they can control exactly how things render. But you'll also see that all of them are going to use some sort of uh, framework, or more commonly called a game engine. Game engines are usually just a homegrown thing to help them repeatedly do a lot of things, like drawing surfaces, placing objects, things like that. So if you look around, there's quite a few different game engines, even available for public use. Like Autodesk, I think, has one. There's Unreal Engine. There's Unity for apps. There's just so many different ones. I think Undertale, a newer game, was released with Game Center. So there's quite a few out there, and they all have the same concept, making things easier to render, and to just kind of drag and drop things when you need to. Yeah, I'll kind of pause on talking for now. But that's kind of how things are drawn. Maybe in a little bit I'll talk about animation. So let me get through this area first. It's going to take a few minutes.
Wasn't I just out here? Whoa. Bust through that window.
So you'll notice this gun appears a lot more now. I never use it because it runs out of ammo super fast. I just don't feel any need to ever use anything on it. We got two guys here, one behind this pillar, probably more elsewhere. I'll put a nice fat bullet right to his head. That goes trigger happy.
Oh, no, don't!
See the other guy. Obviously sees me. Oh, this is where it is. Um, if you're going through this game, right on top of here is where you can find the relic, which is its own achievement. It's the little golden egg I showed you last episode. I think also inside one of these little lookout things there's a treasure. Not sure which one it was, but one of them had one. I'm actually gonna try to sneak around down here, make my job a little easier.
He's over here.
Yes, he is. And all of them have these little stupid pistols that don't hold any ammo.
What the hell's she doing?
Hello?
Buka Pintu!
Siapaini, Ichara Sekara.
Sialano! Chepatan Buka Pintu! Ah, Tahi! It worked! There he is! Up there! Get on the gun! Oh boy.
Wait for it. There we go. So this gun, this West 44, this is one of the most powerful guns, I think, in this game. It's basically a one-hit kill. But you can see it only holds, very limited ammo, so I don't like using it very often. Where's the guy?
Oh, no, don't!
Yeah, I'll just stick with my regular pistol. I don't want the shotgun either. Same reason I don't like the West 44, it just doesn't hold very much ammo. I'd rather have more ammo and be a terrible shot than less ammo and still be a terrible shot. If I can get this just right, there's a barrel that explodes right next to him. So that M79, I haven't picked that one up yet. That's basically like a grenade launcher. You can see it only has 3 shots to it though, so it's not super practical. I'll talk about some, how games use animation after this part. There's quite a few guys right here.
Oh boy.
Hello. Okay. So I talked about a little bit how graphics were rendered on video games. So a lot of 2D games, they use their sprites, whereas a lot of 3D games will use polygons, or repeating textures and wrap those textures around wireframes. So I'll talk about animation a little bit. So animation is, if you do it by hand, it is a pain in the butt. So I did one app that was just a really basic 2D, like endless runner type of app. And that one I did all by hand. And it was pain in the butt because when you're working with animation, you basically have to render one frame at a time. So the human eye can see roughly 23, 24 frames per second. So that's why you'll see a lot of games will be 24 frames per second or higher. Because anything above that looks like smooth motion. Basically the way animation works is you just run a lot of these frames at that speed fast enough so the human eye thinks it's actually moving when it's really just flashing images really quickly. So a 60 frame per second, obviously it's flashing things really quickly, and so it makes the animation look even smoother, more crisp. The only problem with 60 frames per second is it is a lot of frames per second, so it requires more processing power and more images to blend together. So you don't see that as often on a lot of games, unless the console or PC can handle it. So the way animation works, though, is you basically you can think of it just like a movie. You just flash images one at a time. The difference is when you're having a user interact, you also have to keep track of where different objects are in relation to each other.
Jesus, Elena, where are you?
And then keep track of their frames in comparison to other frames of other objects. So typically what you'll see is um, you'll get an overall frame count
Wait a minute.
for an app or a game. So
What's so
like maybe
important about that
30
tower?
frames per second might be the overall game speed,
Son of a bitch.
and then everything will be calculated based on the speed. Oh, why can't I go back? That's not fair. Oh boy. So for example, let's say 30 frames per second was my regular game speed. I might say I want an object that goes 15 frames, and I'll just loop that object. So that one's gonna go twice as fast because it's gonna loop twice. Every 15 times it's looping, so it's gonna look like it's going double the speed. You can also slow down things by increasing the individual object frame rate relative to that overall, the 30 frames per second. So it will appear like things are going slower if you increase their individual rate. Only problem with doing it that way is you have to be careful, because if you do it too slow, then it appears jumpy. So in order to compensate, you need more image transitions or more sprites to flash to the user so it doesn't appear jumpy. So when you see, let me actually shoot random thing. I'm not sure if I killed that guy. Okay, so let me come in here, maybe demonstrate. So I'm going to shoot the wall, and you'll see the explosion that came after, kind of the ricochet. That is a single animation. So it's just got a set amount of frames, and it's triggered based on an event. In this case, the event is the bullet collides with the wall, so we trigger that one animation. It's always going to be the same. You might have, different animations and switch between them, but it's always just going to be that same loop. So that's kind of the basics of how the animations work. The nice thing is, most of the time you don't have to figure out that frame rate if you're using a framework, because all of them are going to have that built in. If you're designing a framework, a game engine, then it's a nightmare to try and figure that stuff out. But once you do, it's not too bad to work with it. Boy. Yeah, that's the good thing about game engines, is they handle that stuff for you. That's their main purpose. The other main purpose is just to drag and drop pre-built objects, making gaming development much faster and much easier. Man, these guys are ruthless. I still haven't gotten to that girl, which is super annoying.
Aha. What's this?
So kind of to continue my thoughts on that. So animation is really key in games, obviously. And when you mix it with the sprites and get everything synced up, then you can start building an actual game. The tricky part is, you have all this game stuff, but coordinating everything takes a lot of time, and building all the little images and things still takes a lot of time and a lot of man hours.
Same symbol, but what's that got to do with the tower?
I got distracted there. So a game engine, let's take, Unreal Engine or Unity or something. Basically, the game engines, they provide a way to already handle all that stuff, make it really easy for you to work with. The hardest thing that you have to remember is you have to know a little bit of physics, because you have to understand how the framework rates and everything work. And then, on a 2D game, you're working on just an XY flat plane. But on a 3D game, then you have to worry about your Z plane as well, because it is 3D. So you have to kind of know how physics work, figure out how you want things to move. And then you also have to figure out how you want things to collide with each other. Because if you don't, right now, there's no way I'd be able to stand. Basically, this guy is colliding with the ground. Or, I can walk into a wall, he collides with that wall, and that prevents him from moving. So there's a lot of extra things you have to worry about when dealing with games. Not just the movement, but, positioning things and telling it, I don't want this to run into this, or maybe you do want something to go through another object, depending on what you're building. So a lot of considerations. But the frameworks make it so easy to do that versus doing it by hand. You can build a simple game now in just a few hours, even if you had really basic images. Obviously, a game like this, it's going to take hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of man hours. But something like Flappy Bird, I can guarantee that didn't take that guy very long to actually make. And he just got really lucky and it got super popular. But that's a really simple game in general. Very basic graphics, very basic XY animation. I've seen tutorials on replicating that. Literally, you can do the whole game in like 6 hours.
Yeah. Excuse me. Thank you.
So if you're interested in all with game development, I would recommend learning a little bit of physics, learning how to basically to work with velocity and speed. That one's going to be absolutely crucial. You'll also want to learn a little bit on how to make graphics, how to make repeating graphics, because you'll want to do that for textures. You also want to learn how to make, if you're going to do a 2D game, you want to learn how to make sprites. Sprites are really easy to make. They just require a lot of thinking about sometimes when you're adding animation into the mix. And then from there, pretty much the hardest thing is coming up with an idea and a plan on how you want to build your game. Once you have all that down, it's just, repetitive work getting all the things you want implemented. More guys. For being supposedly a somewhat deserted island, there's unlimited guys everywhere.
Oh, great. Oh boy.
That's gonna hurt. How many of them there are? It's ridiculous. Being really, really careful because that turret will rip me to shreds.
Oh shit. Oh, great.
Kidding me, these guys are so grenade happy.
Oh, great.
Awesome. 5 shots to spare.
That'll come in handy.
I believe when you're hunting for treasures, there's one somewhere around these rocks. Yeah, I think there might be one behind these steel doors somewhere. Oh, I think there's also one on the other side of this bunch of rocks. Oh, where? What? Where'd you come from?
It's gonna hurt.
Fuck, a bunch of guys gonna pop out right here. Could be wrong though.
These aren't Spanish. They're English. Whoa. Fletcher, we have gone to the Great Tower. I pray that you will meet us there. Francis Drake. Wow. So you made it. But what were you plotting?
Just gonna watch guys appear out of nowhere here. Those guys were definitely not there before. I think that one back there had a treasure in it. And there's also a treasure right back here. So you can see how connected these maps are. We literally are just on the other side of this wall from that tower that we were climbing earlier.
Where'd she go?
Kind of weird camera angles. It's hard to see where these ledges are. Oh, now we're back in this same room that we were in before, just higher up. Yeah, so you can see that. We can get the camera angle just right. You can see that rope right there is the thing we swung and then avoided. So that's a good element of game design. So when you can make a map so you can spend literally an hour on the map without having to go very far.
This must have been Drake's. So what were you looking for, huh? Well now, that looks familiar. Huh. The ship's never left. Elena.
There she is.
Oh crap.
No matter which one of those guys you shoot, you'll still get stuck in this cutscene.
I know I'm not a big-time treasure hunter like you. I doubt you're gonna find El Dorado in there. How'd you get yourself in this mess?
Trying to rescue you, as a matter of fact.
Oh, that's so sweet. Traditional sandstone, brick, and stucco. Limestone mortar, huh?
How'd you get to know so much about this?
My show, Episode 4, Architects of a New World. Yep. It'll just take a tug to pull these bars out.
What? No, wait, are you sure?
Get out of my way, Puto! Hey, Batan, open this goddamn door!
Oh, crap.
Hey, Drake.
Eddie Raja. I should have guessed.
Fascinating document, huh? Seems like this Sir Francis was in my line of work.
Don't flatter yourself, Eddie.
Always ready to be enemies, eh? Tell you what, lead me to the gold, and I just might let you live.
Is that it? Is that my deal? Die now, or help you, and die later. Oh, it's a tough call, but you know what? I'll take die now.
Daikamu! Listen to me, maggot. I was promised treasure on this goddamn rock. And now, my men are dying. They can't even go outside to take a piss without an armed guard. And I have nothing to show for it! I am making you a fair offer. You help me find the treasure, And the last man alive gets the gold. And the girl, of course.
The girl? Oh, Eddie, the girl's long gone. She's probably off the island by now. Going for help.
Daikujin, you were never very good at poker. I will find her. Trust me. How much trouble could one girl be?
Impeccable timing. It's almost like that was planned.
Well, come on!
Thank you.
Hey! Damn it!
Nice work.
Thanks.
Hey! Buka pintu!
Hang on.
After them!
This is a pretty fun part. I don't know if you guys have ever driven three-wheelers, but there's no way he could have been driving like that without tipping over. Maybe four-wheelers, but definitely not a three-wheeler.
that guy?
Just an old business associate. Oh, look out! Oh,
no. Okay. Here, grab my hand.
okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Oh, but you're bleeding.
Yeah, it goes with the territory. Let's get the hell out of here. Damn it. Come on.
Going somewhere?
Hey, Eddie.
Did you really think you could escape from what?
Oh, no, I just giving the young lady the $10 tour.
Shut it! I bet you're working for them too.
What?
You thought you could set me up and keep everything for yourselves, hmm?
Damn it! This guy's crazy.
Eddie, take it easy, buddy.
Well, you're out of luck now. And out of road. Now, give me that map.
Hold on. All right, you got me, fair and square.
Hey, don't move.
Relax, Eddie. Just getting the map like you asked. I said, hold on.
I am.
Well, hand it over.
Well, now, you told me not to move. Looks like you're gonna have to come get it.
Come
I wish there was a mod to like change that to a
Oh, shit.
minivan or something. Make it way more entertaining. Shows you the invincibility of her. She's got to have been shot like 30 times.
Oh, God's sake.
Oh, these guys never quit.
This is actually a pretty good transition. I think I'll stop it right here. So, just to recap what we've gone through since the last video. We crashed a plane in the last video, and basically this entire time we were just trying to find this girl again. So we finally did that, and then just had this driving scene. So it was a pretty long, I mean that was what, over an hour it looks like, just trying to find this girl. So that pretty long segment just for that. I think in the next time getting to that temple looking thing, telescope, and hopefully maybe entering that area, kind of like a new section of the game. So thanks for watching. Feel free again to share this video and any of our other videos, and hope to see you in the next section.